The very basics of decentralized social media. Hopefully by the end of this presentation, you will be able to understand key definitions and processes, analyze your own relationship to social media, and answer the question, why is this so important? First off, a brevity disclaimer. I will be glossing over and simplifying some things to finish under the time limit. This presentation is geared towards newbies who are just getting into this topic. If there is any blatantly incorrect information, please respectfully leave a comment and I will add it to a document of errata in the description. Thank you. Traditional centralized social media. One for-profit company as a single entity running their platform. Communication is contained to within those platforms. And shitification is when an online platform becomes more monetized and less user-oriented the longer it lasts. Offer features to lure people in, then extract value from people to serve themselves and third parties. And they use their control to influence public discourse to whatever they perceive as advantageous to themselves. Non-traditional or decentralized social media operates entirely differently. To better conceptualize, let's break down things into three parts. The protocols, who controls the protocols, and the platforms that are separate but built on top of the protocols. What is a protocol? A communication protocol is a system of rules that allows two or more entities of a communication system to transmit information. The protocol defines the rules, syntax, semantics, and synchronization of communication. Let's use email to demonstrate what a protocol does. SMTP is the protocol an email client like your phone app uses to send an email you write to your email server, then sends it to your friend's email server. When your friend wants to read it, their phone app uses IMAP to view the message remotely, then flag or trash the email directly on the email server. Email is an example of a decentralized protocol. There isn't one single email company you make an account for and log into. You can choose from an array of companies running their own servers and still communicate with the rest of them. So with all this in mind, you can assume that social networking protocols are protocols specifically made for social networking. These are typically designed to be decentralized. The first social media protocol we will talk about is ActivityPub, which is used by Mastodon. And the next one we'll talk about is Authenticated Transfer Protocol, or ATProto, which is used by Blue Sky. How does ActivityPub work? At a high level, it is very similar to email. You still have your phone clients, aka mobile apps. I log in with the app to the Mastodon server or instance I have an account on. Mastodon is a microblogging platform, so all of the posts, accounts, etc. are displayed to me as such. However, my friend is logging into their PixelFed instance with a different app. PixelFed is a photo blogging service, so everything is being displayed to them as such. The thing is, because both of these platforms are built on top of ActivityPub, we can follow each other and like each other's posts. How that appears to each of us might be different, but the point is these two platforms, which were made for different purposes and exist on different servers, can communicate with each other. In this way, they are decentralized. Two different instances built on top of the same protocol that are in communication with each other are federated. The collective name for all social media platforms built on top of ActivityPub, whether they are Mastodon-based or not, is called the Fediverse. AtProto works very differently and is decentralized in a way that is completely unlike ActivityPub. Firstly, all of your personal data is stored on an appropriately named personal data server or PDS. Your username, your posts, and their content, follows, likes, etc. Imagine it as a big ocean of data. Next, you have the Relay or Firehose. These are literally just web crawlers. They suck up all the data from all the AT protocol PDSs that they can find on the internet and organize everything in a manageable way to prep for the final step, which is the app view. This is the client you interact with. What content and how it is displayed will differ between apps. The neat thing about AtProto is that all of your data is stored on one singular PDS. So using your credentials for that PDS, you can log into any platform built atop AtProto. If you made a Blue Sky account, your data is on the bsky.social PDS. You can use the credentials for that to then log in and use Skylight, a video blogging app built on AtProto. The collective name for all social media platforms built on top of AtProto is called the Atmosphere. Now, who owns the protocols? The World Wide Web Consortium, or W3C, is an international nonprofit. Their whole thing is to determine the standards used on the internet. They have an entire democratic process its members participate in to form working groups and make decisions. They are responsible for things you use on the internet every single day. They introduced ActivityPub back in 2018. Blue Sky, a for-profit public benefit corporation, which is a type of corporation that only exists in some US states that have passed laws creating it. It was founded in 2019 by the Twitter guy as a project within Twitter. The individuals working on the project made their own company to keep the project going. Backed by $23 million in private venture capital, rumored earlier this year to be valued around $700 million. Specifically, as the owner of @Proto, Blue Sky publicly introduced the protocol in 2022. In 2023, they briefly mentioned looking into offloading ownership of @Proto to IETF, an individual volunteer-based standards organization. In September 2025, they followed up on this promise by submitting drafts for potential standards to the IETF and requesting a meeting to gauge interest for starting a working group to develop these standards. Earlier that week, Blue Sky had also announced that sometime in the future they would be offloading management of their Public Ledger of Credentials, or PLC system, to a new separate entity. This entity has yet to be created, but it is planned to be based in Switzerland. The PLC system was developed in-house at Blue Sky. It is a directory that distributes updates to the unique identifier that is attached to every user in the atmosphere to make sure everything is copacetic. Now the platforms. Mastodon is a non-profit founded in 2016 in Germany. Mastodon only develops the Mastodon software, which is specifically intended to be implemented by other people to create their own instances. To that end, if we go back to our previous diagram displaying how ActivityPub works, we can now understand how the platform is intended to be used. My friend and I have accounts on different Mastodon instances that are housed in different servers and were created and controlled by different people and organizations. But because Mastodon is built on ActivityPub, we can still communicate. These servers, in this case, are considered to be federated with each other. Skipping over everything I've already said about Blue Sky the company, let's look at Blue Sky, the developer of the AppView platform. While it is open source and can be forked, this is not the intended use case for Blue Sky in the same way Mastodon is. Blue Sky the platform was designed as its own standalone app. They plan to add subscription tiers in the future. Now for the opinionated part. Feel free to stop watching the video here. I think @Proto is a great concept. Design-wise, both it and ActivityPub have their pros and cons. That can be debated until the cows come home and is outside the scope of this presentation. My issues are with the context surrounding @Proto, aka Blue Sky the company. Blue Sky is only decentralized in concept. In fact, it is acting as if it is a typical centralized social media platform. As an example, Blue Sky is doling out a higher tier of verification to certain accounts. Earlier this year, it capitulated to the Turkish government, banning over 50 accounts at the government's request and over a dozen more voluntarily. More recently, it swiftly enacted age verification for users based in the UK after the passage of a new law. When a similar law was passed in Mississippi, it blocked all access from IP addresses within the state. Additionally, and this should speak for itself, it is a for-profit VC-funded company worth millions of dollars. It is the exact environment that causes enshittification that people were fleeing from when joining Blue Sky in the first place. On that point, by and large, it appears that most Blue Sky users treat it as a centralized platform. Close to 100% of all users in the atmosphere are on the bsky.social PDS. There are startlingly few non-bsky.social PDSs that new users are even able to sign up for. The small handful that exist are hard to find and will often require an invite code, which are even harder to obtain. And even then, many app views only allow access from the bsky.social PDS, completely defeating the point of using the protocol. As it currently stands, Blue Sky the company is able to exert an extraordinary amount of control over the atmosphere. With everything I just mentioned, that is extremely dangerous. This isn't to say that Mastodon is the savior here. While mild in comparison, Mastodon has had some of its own controversies. A crucial difference is that, by design, Mastodon the nonprofit cannot moderate any other Mastodon instance other than their own self-run mastodon.social instance, which only comprises of roughly 25% of the Fediverse. The final points I will make are these. There are many other regularly used platforms based on ActivityPub that already exist. Many of these are intended to be alternatives to popular traditional social media platforms. ActivityPub is owned and backed by W3C, a trusted, reputable, democratic organization that the average person has already been implicitly trusting for over 30 years. While it is not perfect, the W3C is inherently a better option as a protocol owner than a sole private corporation, which will be the case for @Proto until IETF decides, if ever, to adopt the protocol. There needs to be wider education on this topic for people to actually understand what is going on and meaningfully engage with it. One positive side effect of Blue Sky growing in popularity is that people are now more open to learn about this subject than they were before. The spaces we use to interact online are vitally important and consequently have tangible real-world effects. Who owns and operates these spaces influences the conversation, and we need to support spaces that aren't actively seeking to extract value from the people that participate in them. Here's a final slide to pause and read at your own pace, listing some pros of the Mastodon UX over the current Blue Sky UX as of the uploading of this video. Thank you for watching.